winning the war, but not winning the peace. The Bush administration tried to topple Saddam Hussein with just enough firepower, not a bullet more, and with no plans for reconstruction or political reconciliation. Bush advisors dug in, blaming the military rather than the approach.
As you know, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you might want or wish to have.
By the end of 2006, the American public had had enough. Even the Bush administration finally acknowledged it was time for a change in strategy. A general named David Petraeus had long argued the military wasn't prepared to fight the war that developed. They came up with a counterinsurgency manual, arguing for a fundamental change in strategy. Political, social, and economic programs are more valuable in addressing the root causes of conflict and undermining an insurgency. Petraeus was then put in charge of the so-called surge.
The situation in Iraq is dire. The stakes are high. There are no easy choices. The way ahead will be very hard.
40,000 extra troops into Iraq in 2007 who were handed marching orders. Get out of the armored vehicles and into the streets. The military argues this ultimately stabilized the situation in Iraq and saved lives. The last time the U.S. military did a large-scale withdrawal from a country was Vietnam in the 1970s. In 2003, the Bush administration wanted to avoid the images of so many dead. 58,000 U.S. troops killed in Vietnam, honored here in Washington at a memorial. After the U.S. pulled out, the South Vietnamese government fell, and many Americans thought the war was a waste of time and of lives. The U.S. government wanted to manage the images in Iraq the way they couldn't do in Vietnam.
Going forward, I think it's doubtful that U.S. policymakers or the U.S. public will have a lot of patience for putting the U.S. military in a situation whereby it fights the type of large-scale, resource-intensive counterinsurgency campaign that has been necessary in Iraq.
The U.S. is now using the same strategy in Afghanistan.
How do you know there's no Taliban if you just...
But some question whether the U.S. has missed the window to win hearts and minds in a country where the Taliban still holds considerable sway and firepower. Rosiland Jordan, Al Jazeera, Washington.